What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Smoov Golf Podcast. I'm your host, DJ, and today is an episode that's kind of a little bit home hidden, um, especially after everything that I've been through. It hurts to see that fellow professional golfer, I'm not, on the PGA Tour. It's like to see that he was struggling. So. Rest in peace and rest in power to Grayson Murray. And then also on the note of, Lexi Thompson announcing her retirement from full-time play. It's a little bit of a somber note for this episode, because today we're going to talk about the sort of like the behind the scenes of being a professional golfer. I mean, there I guess there's a misconception that, being a professional athlete in general, especially like being a professional golfer, it's a glamorous lifestyle. You get to travel, you get to get paid for what it is that you love doing, and that's, in my case, playing golf. But there's a little bit more to it than just that. Um, and even Lexi Thompson kind of highlights it a little bit in her announcement that there are some things that she had to go through as she was going through it kind of alone, and that's something that you know um, a lot of professional golfers kind of have to go through as they progress in their careers. So it's there's a lot that goes into being a professional golfer. It's not just, being able to practice and play and, travel to all these different tournaments. There's also stuff behind the scenes, like especially if there's any factors in their personal lives that could affect, what it is that they're going through and how they progress and, what happens, as they go through. So without further ado, let me kind of go into it a little bit. Um, Being a professional golfer, it's challenging because, we like one of the main things is like we worry about the competition and we worry about can we stack up to, the field that we're playing in. For example, and Monday Q Info, thank them for, keeping the world of professional golfers updated, especially for those that are trying to get up to that level. They post, scores and articles about, certain qualifiers, and it's great. But it's also sometimes can be a little, trying to find a word here, but sometimes it can be a little um, disheartening sometimes because when you look at certain scores, like for example, right now my scoring average is around 75 at the moment, right? So now when I look at some of these scores, it's like, granted, I am looking to shoot lower than 75 on average. But when you look at some of the guys that are playing out there now, they're coming straight out of, college. They've also come out of PGA Tour U, when they graduated and have guaranteed starts and things like that. So you look at some of the scores that are being put up, it's like a 75 is not going to cut it. Even sometimes shooting 64, 65 doesn't cut it because there are guys that are just going to get hot faster and stay hot longer than, certain players. So the competition is very cutthroat. It's not like, it's not like everybody's going to have a chance. Like everybody has a chance, but it's a matter of if you give yourself as many chances as you can. Um, like for example, I've played through three tournaments so far, and I think I've had chances at all three tournaments to try to win. And now, granted, it's a handicap tour, so they use handicap to kind of, I guess, level out the playing field. But even with that, I gave myself chances, but there's still the fact that I still have to fight handicap. So it's it's like I can give myself the chances. It's a matter of capitalizing on them, and then just doing everything that I can. So with the handicap, it gets a little harder. Um, there is, I mean, along with that, there is traveling to these competitions as well, especially like if you're doing this alone. Like there is definitely kind of a mindset where it's like you are kind of alone in that and everything, like trying to get to tournaments, whether it's driving, airfare, um, you paying for a hotel for yourself. If you're doing this all by yourself, it gets a little tedious and it's challenging to kind of get through all of that by yourself because it's like, it's rough when you have to try to figure out logistics of, oh, can I make this tournament? Oh, can I do this one? Or I can do this one. When you're really trying to play it as many as you can to give yourself as many chances that you can get to make it onto the tour. So it takes a minute, especially like when you're trying to get into as many competitions as you can. Um, the next thing is more about I guess it's about health, and it's not just physical health that we're talking about here. There's also the mental health aspect. Um, like I said, I've had some rough experiences. Um, carrying a couple of injuries on my legs, more so around the ankle area, in my right leg, um, fractured a toe in my left foot. Of course, I had tendonitis in both legs, so sometimes that doesn't help either. But, there's the physical aspects of health that, sometimes you gotta get through all of that. Like, especially like if you've had, broken bones or any fractures and stuff like that. Sometimes it takes a while to get um, all healed up and ready to go again. Now, even then, sometimes you're not going to swing the same like you used to. You're going to be trying to, I wouldn't exactly say baby your swing in order to not feel pain, but sometimes, in some cases, it just feels like you do baby yourself when it comes to that physical pain. But along with that physical pain comes the mental side of it. And the mental side, I think, has much more an effect than I think I realized. Um, like I said, for me personally, my mental health has been a little in the flux. Um, I've had a few good, many failed relationships. I've had to deal with, court issues and stuff like that. And that stuff affects you, especially when you got stuff like that affecting your personal life. Sometimes it can translate into how you're feeling when you get onto the golf course. Um, I remember at one of my tournaments last year, or even before that tournament, I went out, practiced, and I was, just I was talking to somebody. They had um, got mad at me for something that I I thought I was doing fine with. I mean, I was trying to take care of myself and make sure that everything was good, and um, they got mad at me for it. And I was like, okay, well, if you're not gonna talk to me for that, why am I gonna put my energy into? And it's like I already got something that I gotta put my energy into. I'm not gonna sit there and just worry about something that I don't need my energy. And I remember because it was like a few days before this tournament. It was at the Bridges of Poplar Creek for the Weekly Challenge Golf Tour. And that week, I did a couple things for myself. I played a couple practice rounds. I practiced. I worked out. I did everything that I felt like I needed to because I was able to put my energy um, towards what it was I was working for. And lo and behold, because I got rid of that stressor, because I got rid of that trigger, I was able to fire off a pretty decent round. I shot 72. It was like two over for that course. And I won that tournament using that score. It's just like, when you get rid of certain triggers and certain stressors that affect your personal life, then everything else becomes a lot easier. Um, but unfortunately, sometimes those things, even if you get rid of one thing, there's always others that, will affect you in some way. Um, I said I've been through an entire court battle for a year and a half before now, and even now I'm still going through like the back end of everything that happened. And I'm going to therapy to try to help um, work out some of my emotions, some of my anger, um, and sadness that I felt from that time. And it's just like there's some times where it's like it's hard to get through, and it never honestly it never gets easier sometimes. Um, when you're fighting something like that, it's draining. It's not fun. It's like you go through your life to try to have fun and do the things that you want to do, and you know try to be the best person that you can. But when you have something hanging over your head that could affect the rest of your life as you know it, it it's challenging. It gets rough to kind of keep yourself in that positive mindset where um where you can just move on about your day and be able to do things that you love. And that's what I felt for a year and a half as I was fighting certain things. And it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't. Like I said, I've been through it for a year and a half now, going on slightly more, and it doesn't get easier. I mean, yes, I've gone through the major part, you know, which was great. It's like I finally got through that. That happened last year. But, in terms of the lasting effect that it has on my life, um, it doesn't get easy to deal with. It's still a challenge. Like there's still things that I get angry about from when that happened that I just can't, shake. And trying to move forward from that, it's been tough for me because everywhere that I went, if there was something that reminded me of that time, I would get a bout of anger, frustration, and there are times where I could shake it easily, and there are times where I literally can't. And then, like I said, failed relationships, trying to not be alone in this journey. Unfortunately, there are times where, you have to be alone, um, to get through everything that, comes with being a professional athlete. And sometimes you find who you think is the one for you, the one that's gonna, hold you up and keep you sane through thick and thin, to then find that, there's something that, keeps them from being that person. Like if they want to end everything early, or, they start manipulating you, or they start isolating you. And it's just trying to deal with all of that. It gets tougher and tougher. And like Lexi said, it's like, it's hard um to continue on like that, especially when you're just doing it alone. And that's the tough part about it is is the lone part. It's being alone while you're going through this entire journey that makes it harder and harder and harder. And now I'm not gonna say that I understand how Grayson was feeling. I'm not gonna say that, um, I've felt the same way or anything like that. But in a way, in a way, there's some correlation in how he may have felt. I mean, even for myself, I was in I would say I was in a very bad place for a little while, as in like I do have scars, and it's not exactly my proudest moment, but it's when you're trying to feel something other than the pain that you're feeling, sometimes you resort to things that you don't want to, or you resort to something that you thought you would never resort to before. And I've gone through that. I have scars from when I had a relationship kind of fail on me. And it, I said, it's not my proudest moment. It's like, actually, I have multiple scars from failed relationships. So it's like, it's not my proudest, not my proudest moment at all because my mind just wanted to feel something other than pain. And unfortunately, instead of that emotional pain that, some people say is easy to get through, unfortunately, my body and my mind wanted to resort to physical pain. And it's not the way that I would have wanted to go. But now that I've kind of figured some things out for myself and trying to, move forward, it's, I'm not saying it's easier. I'm not saying it's more of a cakewalk than anything else. It's just become a little more manageable, I would say. And even though it's manageable, there's still some times where there are times where I just don't want to wake up. I don't want to go and deal with what is on the other side of the day, what's on the other side of the morning. And, it sucks. It sucks to have to be thinking in that kind of way. But when you're going through things in your personal life that affect, how it is that you think and what it is that you do, um, it gets much more challenging to deal with. And that's why I think like this is something important to talk about because without being without talking about it, it does become more difficult to to take care of and just in general. Like it gets harder and harder to um deal with as the years go on or the months or the days. And at some point you kind of decide whether if you're willing to keep going or do you just want the pain to stop? And ultimately, that's not what I strive for. It's like there are things that I want to do. I want to be able to be on the highest stage that I possibly can, whether that's Corn Ferry Tour, whether that's PGA Tour, PGA Tour Canada, whatever the case may be. It's like I don't want to cut myself short from being where I want to be. And so that means I got to do everything that I can to keep myself in it, keep myself going. Even if that means, just taking a little more time to just go and focus on something else and practice and work out and, you know, figure out what it is that I really want to do, then, I'll do that because in the end, I myself determine who it is that I am and what it is that I want to do. And in no way should I let anybody determine that for me or let an experience determine that for me. So I have to keep working harder. I have to keep pressing because if I don't, then what else is there? What else is there if I don't keep pushing myself? What is there if I don't um keep working and keep striving to be where I want to be? That's it. It gets hard to talk about. Um and it's like even now it's like I even though I'm going to therapy and things like that, it gets hard to really put into words what it is that I'm feeling and what's happening with me. But um, having to talk about it it makes it easier to deal with. It's like I said, it just hit home a lot because I've been in, I wouldn't say I've been in his shoes, but there definitely were times where I thought about what would everything be like if I just wasn't here? How would things end up if I just stopped caring and, just did take my life? Um, would it have made my life easier? I don't know. I don't think so. And hence why I try to keep striving to be better and move forward. But I won't say that I've never thought about, whether or not, you know, would it be more beneficial to me to end the pain as early as possible. And it's even, I've even had doubts about whether if I was doing enough or if I was enough. And that's the hard part is realizing that I am enough. I do everything that, I'm supposed to do, or like I'm doing everything that I can to be the person that I want to be. And so it just gets harder it's hard to fight with that reality when you have, like I said, for me, I've had failed relationships where the person says I didn't do enough, or like recent one is like I did enough, but there are certain factors um, that made her uncomfortable with staying. And it's just like, I it's like you can understand some of the things, but when it comes to actually dealing with it, it's it's not the best time. It's not, especially when you needed someone that in your corner to keep your head stable and keep your head strong, and then to lose that person that was your rock, that was your pillar, and it affects you, and it affects you in ways that not a lot of people realize that it takes a toll, especially when you're trying to move on and trying to you know get yourself in a better place. But sometimes you wonder if that better place was is better because you got there, or is it better because you had this person with you? So um, it's it's not fun having to deal with some of these thoughts as life goes on, um, especially when you're trying to focus on getting to where you want to go. But unfortunately, that's the reality. That's the reality of being a professional golfer, but the reality of being a professional athlete as a whole, as in general. It's like you have these things in your personal life, you have these things in your professional life that you have to, figure out the logistics and get through. And if you're not able to do that with certainty, if you're not able to do that with a sense of confidence, then it becomes harder to be where you want to be and be what you want to be. Like I said, today is very it's a hard hitting topic for me, especially having to go through it myself and trying to get therapy and trying to get myself in a better mental mindset. But that's something that needs to be talked about because I don't think I was at one point in the shoes of Grayson Murray, but in a way I understand what it is to go through as I'm going through it myself. And our circumstances may have been different. I don't know what kind of demons he may have been battling. Even Lexi Thompson, I don't know what demons she had to battle throughout her entire career. But every athlete, every person has their demons that they have to fight. And like I say it's unique to each and every person, but and every person is going to fight them in their own way. But it doesn't mean that life gets easier. Doesn't mean that this life gets any easier when we finally deal with everything that comes with it. And I think that's the part that not a lot of people think about when it comes to watching these professional athletes, especially if you look at like golf and, you know, basketball, football. There are things behind the scenes that, people don't see. People don't see the mental hurdles that, each and every player goes through. Nobody sees the physical hurdles. Nobody sees the competitive struggle that they go through. And now it's now that, things have come ahead with how this kind of life has been going. It's now people are kind of on notice that, hey, a lot of us are not okay. A lot of us players, whether it's golf, basketball, football, a lot of us, we're just not okay. And the only thing that we're doing is just trying to manage what it is that we're feeling. Sometimes we can manage it, but there are other times where it gets harder for us to manage, and then we spiral. We spiral and do things that, we never would have thought about doing. And when we start doing that, that's when we are at our lowest. Or at least I would believe that that is when we are at our lowest. And when we get to that point, we need people to reach out. We need people to help us get back to a state where we can say that everything's going to be okay. Because if we ever get to that point and we don't have the help that we need, whether it's family, whether it's therapists, whether it's, you know, our girlfriends, wives, whatever the case may be, without that help, you never know what could happen to any of us. And that's the scary part, is the not knowing. So if if you are someone that's going through that, whether it's, you've had thoughts about ending everything and trying to ease your pain, if you ever need an ear or you ever need to talk about it, you know, reach out. Don't let it fester to a point where nothing will help. That's it for this episode, guys. Before I gotta start crying, um, if you guys are able to, or even just if you have somebody that you know that's been struggling for a while, reach out because even though it seems like reaching out is not going to help us, but believe it or not, reaching out does more for us than you think. Talking to us does more than you think. And that's the kind of support that a lot of us need is just somebody to reach out. So that's it for this episode. Um, if you guys want to help support the journey to the PGA Tour, go to smoovgolf.com and look at the sponsorship page. You don't have to, but your support is very well appreciated. And then, like I said, if there are things that you may want to talk about, or if there are some things that you want to put out there, so that way you have an ear to, listen to what it is that you're going through, definitely put it in the comment section. Um, I had never thought about really reading the comment section if I ever got them, but if there are any comments about what it is that you're going through, I'm also here to listen and um, help get you through um, tough times. So thanks, and everybody, I'll see you guys later.